Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to cover a few things that I have used in conversations with clients on an intro call, a few stories, a few tips and tricks that I use to make the conversation smooth and also to paint a clear picture for the client so they understand what they're getting into, what the service looks like, and what the range might be when you talk about pricing. You will definitely want to stay tuned until the end. There are some tips here for pricing that have really helped me scale my business as a website designer that I think will help you as well. Now, as we begin, I want you to know that there is another video out there on my YouTube channel that talks about questions I ask on the initial call. You've maybe heard it said before, but whoever asks more questions is in charge of the conversation. So you want to make sure you are asking more questions. So check out that video. I think there's about 8 to 12 questions I walk through that I use, depending on the client, what information I know, depending on a few other things that I use on an intro call with a client. So I'm going to break this video down into 3 parts. Check the timestamps below. So if you want to skip around, you can totally do that. But the 3 parts are this. First, we're going to cover the consultation. Then we're going to talk a bit about the process. And then we're going to talk about the important one, pricing. Okay, so let's talk about the initial consultation. Here are a few things that I explained with the client. And in this one, I'm actually going to focus on what I don't do, but this is what I definitely think about with the client in expressing how I will guide them. First and foremost, I do not get detailed into technical solutions. Some clients may come to you for a website design and be heavily focused on fixing one problem. You do want to address it, but you also don't want the conversation to go fully into that one technical problem, as it may overlap or waste your time or it may just leave you hung and dry at the end. So if it's a solution that you could offer to the client and just say, actually, you don't need my service at all, you should go check this out and go figure out that as a solution, use this plugin or tool, then that's great. No problem there. But if you are in the process of trying to land the project and they're going to do the project, getting too detailed into a technical issue is something I highly recommend avoiding. And typically on a consultation where you're talking about a full website project, trying to solve one technical issue, you actually don't have enough time to define the problem and talk about everything else, where it's really important to just get a good sense of what they're trying to talk about, what they're trying to solve, what they're trying to work on at a high level, but then stay away from giving specific, detailed, technical advice. It's one of those things that in some cases you do need to address it if you're going to move forward on the project with the client. But at the same time, just be mindful that you're talking about a full website project or a bigger scope project. So don't get caught up on one specific detail, spending 10, 15, or 20 minutes trying to solve it. Next, what's important for the consultation is to allow the client to know that they are in safe hands. I saw a post on Instagram recently and it confirmed this so well from the future Chris Du. He did a great job of explaining this in just a few words, which he said this: clients pick the safest option, not the best option. And so if you present yourself with confidence, security, and a sense of, I know exactly how to bring this to life, that is much better than trying to be shiny, fancy, and trendy. A lot of times when people start out, they want to be very trendy and fashionable and cool. But at the end of the day, when you talk to a client, what they're looking for is a safety net that they can rely on. They're going to you not just to design a website, they're going to you because they have a problem or an insecurity that they don't know how to do it themselves, or they don't know what to bring to life, or on the other end, they're very confident they know exactly what they want and they want you to bring that to life. And this is how I do it. So you present yourself with confidence by speaking through the process and speaking through to what happens after. Now, this is one way to do it. And this literally takes seconds. So in my other video, I talked about questions you could ask. Hey, so what's your goal for this project? Why did you choose Squarespace? Any of that. You take the information they've given you, you wrap it up in a nice bow, and you present it back to them. So I completely understand why you would choose Squarespace and why you want to go this route. Squarespace is great because it offers you simple and clear ability to be able to make updates to your site with just a few clicks. Best part is this. Once the site is built, I'm going to do a one-on-one training with you via Zoom, and we're going to walk through every aspect of your own personal site, and I'm going to show you how to use it. It'll be a 20 to 30 minute chat. We'll record it, and you'll have it for future reference. So you can make updates to your site anytime you want. Notice what I just did there. I not only solved the client's immediate problem, I showed so much confidence that I actually solved their next problem, which is updating the website. So you can speak to what they're saying by giving them a direct and clear path forward, but also the tip here is you solve the next problem for them. Don't go too far in advance, but you definitely want to solve the next problem for them. By doing that, you show them that you really understand this process, that you're confident, and that you could bring it to life. Now, this leads us to the next part of the video, your process. You want to be very clear with the client about what your process is. See, I would always tell clients something to the extent of this. So here's how the process goes. It's 4 simple steps. That way, we avoid a lot of back and forth. You don't want 700 emails in your inbox, and I don't want 700 emails in my inbox. So the way we avoid that is this clear back and forth. Initially, this is step 1. You fill out this form and submit a deposit. Then I build the first draft of the website, which leads us to step 2. Step 2 is I send you the website, you review it, and then you give me all your notes on all the pages of the site. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you want to change, all of that. We call that the major revision, and that's step 2. Once you finish that, you'll then pass it back to me, and then I'll go through those edits, get all of that updated for you, and then we'll do that whole process again for step 3 for what we call the minor revision. After that, we get into the final touches, get you ready to launch, do your training, and make sure you launch correctly. And that is our 4-step process. Now, what you've done is a lot. You have communicated very clearly that every step of the process will be followed. Also, when the client decides to say, actually, I want to go this way, you could point the client back to the process and say, I'm sorry, but actually it works like this. The more you define the process, the more you define what's coming, the more you define when payments happen, set a clear expectation for the client. So for example, for me, I will never launch a website until the client has paid final payment. So payment comes first and then we launch. That's why I've never had a late payment. I've never missed a payment. That process has always been there, and it's a very clear way. And if you communicate it up front, you have it in your proposal, clients really can't argue with it. So you want to be very clear on what your process is. That's my 4-step process. If it works for you, take it. I think I have another video, and if I don't, just comment down below and I could create a video and walk you through my process in detail. But check the link in the description. There might be something there for you. One other thing about process that's really important by the end of the call, define next steps. Now, next steps could be this. I mentioned my process. It's a 4-step process. I let the client know exactly what to expect next. The more you could paint the picture of the future, the less risk there is, and the more they know what to expect. And the more that picture is clear, the less confusion there is, and the more the process is going to go smooth and be clear for everyone on board. So I explain my 4-step process. By the end of the call, I'll say, hey client, so you're going to get an email from me. It's going to include a Word document and a link to QuickBooks for a deposit or PayPal for a deposit or whatever that might be. And once I get both of those back, we could set the date for your first draft of your website. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and we'll go from there. As you can see, all of this is built up in a way to communicate clearly with the client, tell stories that are helpful to the process, and also just relate to the client because you're giving them a clear sense of what their struggles are versus what your idea is. Oh, I want to build this beautiful website, or I want to take this and do all these things. If you go down that route, you lose track of some of the fundamentals that are going to be very important in the process that the client is going to rely on. And so instead of having them guess all these things, you lay a clear foundation. Now, let's go to part 3, talking about pricing and stories that I explain when I talk about pricing. So there are a few ways to approach this depending on if you have pricing on your website already or if you are going to ask the client on the call, what is your budget for this project? So regardless of either one of those, if price is not fully determined yet, there's a bit of wiggle room you want to make sure you keep from the beginning of the project. And this is why range is important. You want to find out what the client's range is. Let's say their budget is between 6 to 8K. Now this will work if it's between 4 to 5 or 3 to 4, whatever that might be. But in this case, let's say it's between 6 to 8K. So when I make a proposal, what I would do, and I'm giving you this background so you'll understand why I'm explaining the story. But in the proposal, the line items, I'll detail everything. You're going to get this. On the very last line item, I write price range between 6 to 8K. And then below that, it says total. I'll try to show a screenshot of this. It shows total. I'll put $79.50. That way the client knows that that range is available. Hey, if we do a lot less work, I'm not going to overcharge you. That's a clear story to tell. But at the same time, at the highest level, this is what you're going to pay. And so when they sign off on that, it's a confirmation, everything is sealed, it looks great, everybody's on the same page. But you have this range to work with. So the client may ask, why is there a range? What's the difference between a 4K website and an 8K website? This is the story I would tell. And actually, I just remembered, I got this from Chris from the future as well, maybe 3 years ago. Watching one of his YouTube videos. So shout out to Chris. I think a lot of my content around sales is inspired by him. It would go something like this. Let's say, for example, you're remodeling your living room and you're going to get a new chandelier. Well, you could go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick out a chandelier that you really like for, say, $200. Or you can go to a small boutique and find one for $20,000. At the end of the day, both of those chandeliers are going to do the exact same job. They're both going to light up the room. The only difference is finishing. And so for us, if you're looking for, let's say, a 4K website, it's going to work. It's going to be functional. An 8K website, the user experience, every little detail is going to be precise and perfect to make sure it's the best for your target audience. And at the same time, that buys more of my time to focus in on your project and support you in launch. Now, I would stay a million miles away from anything about hours or anything like that, but it lets the client know what they're buying into. And with that, something worth saying in this video while I'm explaining this, let's say you have set pricing on your website. You can still use this whole dynamic because the client may say, well, I think I only need 5 pages. And so your middle package looks great. But you could actually probably upsell the bigger package if the client has the available budget, but you can explain to them how it's going to take their site to the next level. Yes, you have 5 pages and you don't need more, so the next package isn't for more pages, but I could spend more time on those 5 pages and your entire user experience and make sure the site comes to life perfectly for you. I may actually not use the word perfect because anyway, but this is just a flow that you get used to and you test out and you do it again and you do it again and you do it again and you get better at. So these are all things that I learned over time. I remember 2 years ago, I was doing about 4 to 10 sales calls a week. And so 20 to 30 minute calls just like this with people I've never met before, getting on the call. Hey, so what's the goal of your project? Learn more. And then using these examples over and over and over again. And this helped me land more than 50 or 60% of those projects because there was just so much confidence. And also going back to the original quote from Chris at the Future in the beginning of the video, people choose this safest option. They don't choose the best. So I always made sure the client knew they were in good hands, and I always stand on my integrity. If it didn't work out, I would refund the client. If there was anything that just didn't make sense, I'd let the client know. There was a clear communication that I really honored that. And so if that's something that you value, this process will work great for you. These examples will work great for you. And I definitely recommend, if you have not watched the other video about the questions, if this video was helpful for you, I bet that video will be too. With that, thank you for watching today's video. If you got value from today's video, hit that like button. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. And if you want more content like this, consider subscribing. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.